Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. We'll be talking about India's External Affairs Minister Jaishankar statement, where he says that India is open to reacting positively to favourable signals from Pakistan. But then also he talks about, he has warned that India would respond to any in kind to any adverse actions from Pakistan. We'll be talking about the overall, whether this does signal a shift in Indian foreign policy towards Pakistan. And of course, there are other regional politics of the region, their relationship with other countries, whether we talk about Sri Lanka or we talk about Bangladesh or we talk about Maldives, for example, and what it means for overall Pakistan and India relationship. And we've also, of course, invited India. Pakistan's invitation to India to attend the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit. How do we, of course, we haven't received a formal response to this. How do we look at this and how does this mean, what does this mean for the overall relationship with India? Are we looking at a change from the Modi-led government, or is it an overall the same policy as far as Pakistan is concerned? A little later on, we'll also be talking about CPEC and of course what kind of inroads Pakistan has successfully made into the project. What is the Chinese expectation of it? All of that today on Perspective. I have with me Jauhar Saleem, who's former Foreign Secretary and President IRS. Thank you for being with us today. We also have with us Waqas Ali Kausar, who's public policy expert. Thank you for joining us today. Jauhar sir, there is, again, like I said, as far as our relationship with India is concerned, I don't know if one can call it mixed signals or not. Would you call it that?
Yeah, I think this statement, which has got a lot of attention everywhere, where Jaishankar has said that the era of uninterrupted dialogue is over. That has to be within the context of where it took place. This was a book launch of a book on foreign policy, Strategic Conundrums, Reshaping India's Foreign Policy, written by Rajiv Sikri. That's somebody, a former colleague of his. And in that book, the book had really given an overview of India's foreign relations, particularly in the context of the region. It was within that context that he stated these words. So when he said the era of uninterrupted dialogue is over, then he also said actions have consequences. And he said that the author has contended that India seems to be content with the level of relations, and we all know that what is the level of relations, like we don't even have ambassadors in each other's countries presently. So India seems to be content with that level. And then he went on to say that, no, that is, it may be yes, maybe not, but we would not be passive, so we would respond.
So are you saying, he's really not, he said nothing by saying all of this. It really doesn't mean anything if we look at, the overall change in relations.
Yeah, no, it's not that he has said something which is kind of groundbreaking in any ways. I think it's basically a repetition of what their foreign policy has been towards Pakistan in recent times, where they haven't really shown a lot of enthusiasm for positive engagement. But we also have to recall another thing which he said, which was quite significant. He said, as far as the Jammu and Kashmir is concerned, which he meant the illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, of course, 370 is done. Now this has been India's position for quite some time. So what he was saying was, let's say between the lines, what he's saying, first of all, forget about Kashmir dispute. India is not going to talk about that. Secondly, what he's saying is that we don't need to talk to Pakistan. We will wait to see, what type of sort of actions emerge from there. And when they say actions have consequences, then this is always a reference to the allegations of cross-border terrorism. But so this rhetoric has been sort of there, and quite frankly, it's very interesting when he says that the era of uninterrupted dialogue is over. It is an oxymoron. You know why? Because there was never an era of uninterrupted dialogue between the two countries per se, because there have been there have been phases here and there. But this has been an enduring rivalry. There has been over the years, you know, like whenever there has been a dialogue, the dialogues have not produced anything. They have not been meaningful.
But there has always been some kind of
engagement.
Right.
But there have been times where there have not been engagement. You know, like the countries have had wars as well, and so it's not like, you know, like this is a major change.
Right.
You know,
Let
the
me
two
come back
countries
to
have lived with that.
But
having said that, we also have to see the context, and the context is because he then talked about the relations with other countries, which you have mentioned as well, the regionalization.
Right.
He used the term regionalization.
I want to come to that, and let me include Waqas in the conversation also. Waqas, would you say that it's rather, you know, it doesn't really mean anything when we look at the statement? Again, like, you know, Jauhar Saab is also saying it's not groundbreaking in any manner. Do you think it's also, you know, he's trying to act from a position of strength, but do you think it's also, you know, sort of signaling that it has to do with other perhaps, you know, not great, the relationships that India has, again, like, you know, we were talking about earlier on, as far as Sri Lanka is concerned, as far as Bangladesh, we know that, you know, for a while, India had enjoyed a relationship with Bangladesh, and now it seems not to be, you know, quite a smooth sailing there also. Do you think it has to do with that? Is that the background in your opinion?
See, thank you first of all for having me on your show. I mean, there are three things importantly when we look at. One, of course, as Ambassador said, it was in the context of a book launch. But if you analyze previously, he has been also saying and stating at multiple occasions that, and trying to portray in a way that the conflicts and the issues with the neighbors it's very much natural. He has been saying in past as well, trying to say that, I mean, when people try to criticize BJP's hostile policies, quite aggressive and very openly aggressive stance against the neighboring governments. So generally they say, look, you have to have a conflict with the neighbors. It's quite natural, where it's everywhere. In this same conversation, he was also trying to use the word conundrum for every relationship with the state, that look, this is something that this is fait accompli. You have to have such sort of relationship. My first understanding is that entire 15 years of his 3 tenures of his almost the government of BJP, there have been many failures, but given the nature of their own domestic politics, they are trying to tell the people that, look, this is very much something which is natural, and trying to, when people try to criticize them, they come up with this argument and narrative that they've been championing their own internal domestic interest, and this has to happen. So this is one thing, I guess this is a fault line in their own policy, that instead of coming up with alternative narratives.
You're saying that it's really just, you know, a cover-up for, he's trying to normalize what is in fact not normal, if we look at, you know, their neighborly relations with other countries.
Second, if you see importantly, I mean, there is a pressure. Of course, when it comes to India, Pakistan, I guess the need of push, the need of initiative, it has to come from India. Of course, there's a stalemate. India has done an action of Article 370 and doing away with the autonomy of Kashmir, and illegally the government of BJP has done that. Now the onus of responsibility largely lies on India. I guess if you see from 19 onward, Pakistan has its own domestic, economic, political and other issues, and economically as well. The good thing is that Pakistan, despite all these things, have a very strong and staunch stand on Kashmir, particularly right to self-determination. And despite all of that, I mean, normalization is very good. I mean, we need to have this sort of normal relationship between these two countries.
Because even with having our strong stance as far as Kashmir is concerned, and, you know, standing firm on that, I'm going to include Dr. Adnan Sarwar, who is an IR expert, in the conversation also.
Can I just add one thing? If you just see, they have announced the elections in Kashmir. And if you see the manifesto of PDP and others, the local parties, they have been in their politics, particularly, their entire manifesto is all about the engagement with Pakistan even right now. You have to connect with the Pakistan, dialogue with Pakistan, you have to talk about LOC trade and all other things. So this itself is a great dichotomy, that
they're trying to paint another picture, they're trying to make other statements, but then at the same time, Dr. Adnan, we're talking about, you know, this double-edged statement that's come as far as India is concerned. Do you think there's also, you know, it's like they're basically towing two different separate mutually exclusive lines. They're at one time saying that, we don't really need to talk, but we will talk if needed. It seems to be that kind of a statement that says a lot without really saying anything. But barring that, don't you think, of course, Kashmir, like I said, we've stood firm on it. We have a, Article 370. We know, our stance on it. We've stood firm with the Kashmiris. But even with that, there have been times when Pakistan has made overtures, as to India. Isn't that also factually correct?
Well, I would be very much agreeing with what respectable Ambassador Jauhar said, that yes, in fact, there was no as such uninterrupted dialogue over the years. Even the SAARC summits also have been postponed due to India's reluctance. But you see, this statement indeed is a self-contradictory statement in all its words, because on one side he has said that, well, we would not be passive and action and reaction would be there to any move this means from Pakistan side or from China side or from any side. But at the same time, I believe that it is a little pressure tactic, because they know that Pakistan is in some kind of a economic problem, political instability, etc., etc., and they are going to play on that. But along with that, a very important thing is in two Indian union states, elections are going to be held, and BJP is going to harp on the same kind of a Kashmir 370, Article 370 agenda, plus elections in the Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. Now, they are three parts. This is going to be before September 30. In fact, beginning from some time 18th of September in three phases. So there also they want to have an impression on those who they got resettled there, majority of the Hindus, to impress upon them. So I think this is symbolic rather than substantive. And one thing that you see, India, despite the fact that whatever it has done, that it has been saying it has done 370, but it is not like this. This is an international dispute. It's on the UN agenda, not at all sidelined. So there you see international law would be over and above this kind of a national legislation. And also that for sustainable peace, I mean, they know that if Pakistan is not talked to, Pakistan is their key opponent, as well as China, but Pakistan indeed much more serious one from practical point of view. Now, here you see they keep on annoying Pakistan. That would be not in their regional economic development also. They are quite strong in that. Something like 6.5+ % is their economic growth rate. So that also has made them arrogant and overconfident. But I believe that this is also being done to impact on SCO forthcoming conference and the rest of such kind of bilateral and collective organizations, the dialogue.
Jauhar Saab, let me, as far as other relationships of China is concerned, let's talk about that. You think that, if we talk about Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, we talk about Maldives, how would you look at that situation in light of these statements, for example?
Yeah, you mean India's relations with these countries?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's very interesting because this speech gave an overview of that. And first of all, what was striking was the tone.
Okay.
So the tone was very condescending. Jaishankar used terms like India is a rising tide and, it could help other countries of the region. And then even words like India would be generous, it could to other countries and sort of, And then he used that again. When he said that, he qualified. He said, except Pakistan, So this type of a tone. In fact, I watched the whole speech.
Okay.
And what was notable was that other than two countries, which is the United States and China, the tone was condescending for almost all of the countries he discussed.
Okay.
But when he discussed the regional countries, he discussed, of course, Maldives and Nepal, and then he's stated how India had helped them over the years and how these countries need India to grow, and how India could sort of, like be the benefactor for everybody, all the other countries in the region. And then he talked about SARC as well, how SARC and then they have put up in some sort of a parallel organization to that, But the fact is, I think between the lines, what you could read was that India, as they had made it evident through their actions, wants to be the hegemon of the region.
Okay.
And then all the other countries should basically kind of be, some sort of either client states, or those countries should sort of, allow India to sort of,
to
dominate.
Be the godfather, so to
exactly,
speak,
dominate the region in terms of the
yes.
policies and sort of, like, and have a, because, it took a long time. By the way, when he mentioned conundrums, he clarified that he was using the word conundrum for relations with all these countries because the book had done that.
Okay.
And he said he did not dispute with that. It was probably right, but yeah.
But do you think it could be, because of course now BJP is not a majority party anymore. Do you think it could be a shift because of that? There could be a shift in the overall policy, or no?
No, I think it seems that there has been no shift.
Okay.
And the reason for that is that the partners that they have, the coalition partners that they have, although they are not as vitriolic, sort of, when they talk of Pakistan and over the years they haven't had that type of an anti-Pakistan stance as BJP has adopted, but they are not too interested to get involved in foreign policy.
Okay.
So that's why it seems that BJP has a free hand in terms of foreign policy, and you see the continuity. Jay Shankar's continuing as the Prime Minister, and sort of and the tone and tenor of the speeches being the same. So it seems like
a continuation of that rather than.
It seems that
Because what about the SCO summit? Do you think that we are likely, in the wake of all of this, the statements, do you think that we are likely, what kind of response do you think we're likely to receive from that?
Yeah, it seems that.
Let me just go to Waqas, I'll come back to you.
Okay. See, two important things. I mean, Pakistan stands in past, if you see that Pakistan has sent some foreign minister, if you see in New Delhi last time, and I guess this was a very wise, politically very wise and correct move, that instead of sort of boycotting or disengaging this, they have tried to make the most of this forum, and he has been very active over there. You have seen the interviews in the media and all that thing. I guess this time also they've extended the invitation to the Prime Minister, and which they've acknowledged, and I guess this is a very right approach. I mean, Pakistan has been very open to engagement always, but of course the fundamental difference or the problem lies within about the dispute of Jammu and Kashmir. And if you see that when Jaishankar made that statement about Pakistan, I don't know, intentionally or unintentionally also spoke about 370, which is of course very much in their mind that the problem, the fundamental core issue when it comes to India, Pakistan is about Kashmir. And for them this is done, but of course the situation, the ground situation and the overall the environment and everything shows that this is not done what they call. Of course it is something which is pending, it has to be resolved. I guess there is a greater potential when it comes to the meetings like SCO. I guess both the countries have not only the potential, but of course a lot of scope to not only the concept of regionalization, which they say, I beg to differ with that. It's not the relationships, the scope, the potential, all these things have to be under some principles of equality. Of course you have
but there is, like Jauhar Saab is saying, there is there is if the tendency is to act like a godfather with regard to other countries, and then there is the belligerence that they've shown categorically towards Pakistan. We've seen.
If you see when the Jaishankar was speaking to the press when he went to, I guess, to his visit on EU about that dictating and all that, when they repeatedly questioned about their relationship with Russia and Ukraine, I guess. See, sometimes you try to portray that as a very successful foreign policy agent and all that, but right now if you see, this is a very big challenge for India, how to mediate and navigate this a very thin, fine line of relationship between these two countries, particularly Ukraine and Russia, because simultaneously you can't engage in that sort of relationship and you are the sort of a very close ally of the West, and you don't have a very much open stand, and the West has a very open stand about the Russian invasion towards Ukraine. So what I want to say is that this attitude has evolved and developed over the period of time. This is not something that he is doing right now. I mean, over the period of time, if we see that BJP's particular internal policies, I guess the important strength that they have drawn is that their opposition during these tenures has been very weak. So this has given the Modi's government a lot of strength and internally, and then they focused a lot on the foreign policy. This time the issue is different because they would have a very strong opposition, and they do have in the form of the Congress and other parties. So their foreign policy would have, of course, a lot of check, the questions. And when it comes to Pakistan, the biggest problem with this SEO or the direct engagement with Pakistan is that once you create a constituency of the people, those who are fed on hate, I must say, in a sort of exclusive policy, it's very difficult to come back to engage or re-engage, and then have to you want to keep your constituency intact as well. This is the biggest challenge for the BJP right now, that where to start and how to sort of
You're
engage
saying that,
your own constituency.
I think that's really interesting. Let me go to Dr. Adnan. Dr. Adnan, do you think they want to maybe backtrack from this policy? But like, Waqas is saying, it's difficult to do that because, I think to use your word, you said, Waqas, raise a constituency of these haters and, the kind of extremist policy that they've had towards countries like us, for example.
Well, that's right. Actually, Waqas has pointed out a very topical kind of a matter. But I would like to express myself in this way, that during this third term of Narendra Modi, a major positive shift towards Pakistan is quite unlikely. While you see some kind of working relations may be established again, but warm relations is almost out of question unless some miraculous development occurs. There also is a possibility in international relations. When anything goes to deepest low, then there's a rise also instant, strangely enough. But anyway, the point is that I believe that if India continued with its negativity and harshness towards Pakistan particularly, then it also has to see that Nepal, Maldives, Sri Lanka, and now Bangladesh, they are also not good at India. Nepal is Chinese oriented, and Maldives also has given a warning to it to be not meddling, as well as Bangladesh, the latest example. So if it reverses the wonderful policy of Mr. Inder Kumar Gujral, a former Prime Minister, where he was out for good neighborly relations, that was a wonderful policy, a good idea. That would mean that India once again would be going back to its that mood, which would be ultimately not for the sustainable peace in the region. So this, I think they have to be now in the longer term. Write one rhetorical statement on the launch of the book is one thing. Maybe it could be a knee-jerk reaction on the lines of the title of the book. But as far as the official policy of India is concerned, that ought to be much more careful, because state-to-state relations are never without dialogue. Dialogue may be stopped for some time, but neighbors particularly, and those also the kinds of neighbors which are India and Pakistan, both nuclear powers. So they have to be really becoming very, very careful. And I think if Pakistan invites Mr. Modi to the SEO conference, he should be happily coming over and trying to at least restore the matters which got stalled in 2019. So if Pakistan takes a step ahead, India should also be responding.
One hopes, I mean, of course, in the past also we have, acted quite reasonably, and this invitation also is a case in point. But it remains to be seen how practical and, India will act or react to this. We don't have a formal response to the invitation yet. Thank you so much for being with us today. Jauhar Saleem Saab, thank you for being with us today. Waqas Ali Kausar, thank you for being with us today. Dr. Adnan, Sarwar, thank you for joining us on this very important topic. We'll be taking a short break, after which we'll come and talk about, of course, CPEC. It's the headway that we've made recently and China's reaction overall. All of that today. Please stay with us. Right, welcome back. We have with us Ali Asghar Arbab, who's senior reporter PTV, in the studio to talk about, as far as CPEC is concerned, our progress with regard to that, Pakistan-China relationship, and of course the inroads that we've made with regard to CPEC particularly. Ali, you were recently in China, and with respect to that, we want to talk about what you think is the progress that we've recently made. Of course, our relationship with China with regard to that, and what do we expect from the future?
Yeah, of course, China and Pakistan are all-weather friends. They are friends of past, yesterday, they are friends of today, and the friends of tomorrow. So the both countries are so much connected, and CPEC is a way towards the progress of Pakistan. And you know that the first phase of the CPEC is completed successfully, and now the second phase of the CPEC is started. So huge development projects, especially in agriculture and food sector, are introduced, and these CPEC projects, especially in energy, infrastructure, and other sectors, has changed the scenario of the economy of Pakistan. And recently we have visited in China, and we have visited Power China, the leading company of the China, who is running different kind of the projects in energy sector and water sector and the infrastructure sector and others. So they have briefed about the projects, and they told us that how these projects are changed. So of course these projects are so much changed the life of the people of the Pakistan, because there was a huge progress we can see when Tharkol project and many wind projects, many solar projects, roads projects. Of course these change the life of the people. Once they by roads they are connecting to the people. Secondly, through energy we are facing a challenge of energy crisis. So that challenge is now day by day is decreasing, and the shortage of the energy is decreasing. That's of course necessary, and this is happening due to the CPEC projects. So overall I have seen this, because my first visit to China, and China is transformed his economy.
Arbab sahab, there's also, recently one has to talk about the security challenges that we have as a country we faced. Of course, like you said, China continues to stand by Pakistan. We are, we have a relationship that is unfettered, and they're an all-weather friend. How are they doing with regard to that? Are they, as far as our relationship with China, after these recent challenges, security challenges are concerned?
The China and Pakistan has same challenge. Xinjiang is the one of the province in which the Chinese brothers faced terrorism and extremism, and there was the same kind of the incidents, suicide bombers, bombing, attacks by the extremists that disturbed the China. But the China, which I have seen, because we have visited there in Urumqi, we have saw an exhibition, and we visited the different kind of the mosques in different cities as well, and they told that how they face the challenge of the extremism and terrorism, and how to eliminate the terrorism and the extremism in China. And since 2016 there's no any kind of happening in China of the suicide attacks, and they eliminate completely. We can learn from the experience of the China. China has adopted multi phases, which includes, first they of course empower their security organization, and secondly they introduce the progress in those areas where these kind of the extremists who are turning the people towards this game. So they provided them education, economic reforms, opportunities, creation of job, these kind. And on the other thing, they also introduced some reforms. We have visited in Urumqi institution, Islamic Center, where the students are taught, and there's a mosque, there's a library, there's a digital library, and the accommodation, and all kind of the facilities to provide it to the students. But the students are provided education, mostly they learn the Quranic education, because Islam is a religion of the peace, which itself from its name. So they adopted the strategy to educate those youngs the true essence of the Islam, which is a peace, brotherhood, and humanity. And
you're mentioning,
secondly, they have.
It's interesting that you're mentioning this. You know, this people-to-people interaction, which is extremely important. Pakistan also, you know, our government also has, you know, taken a keen interest in this. As far as that is concerned, you know, lobbying for mutual understanding as far as Pakistan and China is concerned, you know, making those vocational training institutes with respect to that, further on that, are we, is that phase of CPEC also, you know, now going to, is that phase 2, or do you think, you know, it's going to take a lot of time for that to develop also?
Yeah, of course, the China and its companies, they are working hard, and they are keen to invest in the second phase of the sea, which is most important for the country of Pakistan as well, because the China has adopted modernization, especially in the agriculture sector, and they are not only exporting those things, but they are also importing many products of Pakistan. For example, I tell we visited GD, JD.com. This is an online platform, the China, and you learn that, and you're surprised that this online platform is delivering more than 2 crores orders in a single day.
Wow.
So huge population.
Yes.
So it was a pleasure. Then they told that we are importing different products from Pakistan as well, and mostly those products are from agriculture and food sectors. So Pakistani companies are also sending. This is a big change.
This is a big change, and it's a huge
beneficial
development.
For, yeah.
Right.
And China wants and also supporting in all sectors which includes development sector, to empower the security agencies, police, and by providing different equipments, trainings, and these kind of the things, in order to because we can learn from the lesson from after China, how the China is eliminated. So the reforms the China Institute eliminate the terrorism in China is a success story, and we can adopt those reforms in our own country to eliminate the terrorism and extremism in the country.
Fair enough. Thank you so much. I think that's a very, very important point, that we can really learn from the Chinese and have this people-to-people contact, which can really lead to a long-term benefit for us, as well as, you know, it's of course mutually beneficial for China and Pakistan. Thank you so much, Ali Asghar Arbab. Thank you so much for letting us know and filling us in after your recent trip to China, and, you know, the inroads that we've made as far as CPEC is concerned, where we are benefiting from our relationship with China, the mutual cooperation, and with a view to perhaps, you know, reaping more benefit mutually from this relationship, and also of course CPEC. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.